Multiplying decimals by whole numbers. Chapter 3, Lesson 2, Part 1. Okay, to multiply a decimal by a whole number, there's two ways we can do it. You can use a number line. So in this example, we have 0.3 times 5. They're using a number line and writing down intervals of 3. So here's where 0 is. This would be 0.1, 0.2, 0.3, and then they just moved 0.3 5 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And they landed on 1.5, and that is the answer to 5 times 0.3, or 5 times 3/10. You could, you could also change it into a fraction, 5 times 3/10, and you'd get 15 over 10, which would be 1 5/10, or 1 1/2. But because we want the answer in decimal form, I don't recommend using this method. The other way to multiply a decimal by a whole number is to simply use multiplication. We're going to ignore the decimal. So step 1, ignore the decimal point as we multiply. So we're taking out, again, it was 0.3 times 5. We're taking out this decimal and the 0 in front of it and just making it 3 and multiplying it by 5, which is 15. So in our original problem, we had one digit, our 3, after the decimal. So now we need to put our decimal back in so that we have one number after it. So let's do some practice using both methods. 0.4 times 6. So 6 times 0.4 means 6 groups of 0.4. So on the number line, we would label every fourth dash after 0 in between whole numbers with an interval of 0.4. So this would be 0.4, 0.8, 1.2, 1.6. Here it's already labeled because that's a whole number, 2, and then 2.4. So 6 times 0.4 is the same as 6 times 4/10, which equals 24/10, which is the same as 2.4. I recommend using method 2, just the regular multiplication method. So first we're going to ignore the decimals and just do 4 times 6, which is 24. Then we look back at our original problem, and because I had one decimal place, I need to put a decimal back in my number so that I have one decimal place. So I start at the end and move over 1, which is how I get 2.4. So let's try some more of the multiplication. We have 0.7 times 5. So I'm going to ignore my decimal and just do 7 times 5, which of course is 35. And now I'm looking back at my original problem, and I have one digit after the decimal. So I'm going to start at the back here and go one digit to the left and put my decimal there. So 0.7 times 5 is 3.5, or 3 5/10. 8 times 0.3. Again, I'm going to ignore my decimal and do 8 times 3, which is 24. So now in 0.3, I see again I have one decimal place. So in my answer, I need one decimal place. So that means I put my decimal in front of my 4. So 8 times 0.3 is 2.4. So we can do multiplying of decimals using both methods when we have more than one digit after the decimal. So in this case, we have 0.19 or 19/100ths times 5. We can use method 1 where we're skip counting the number line. So 5 times 0.19 means 5 groups of 0.19. So my first spot would be at 0.19. then I would be at 0.38. I'm actually skip counting by 19 and then just putting my decimal in. Then I would have 0.57, 0.76, and 0.95. So 5 times 0.19 is 5 times 19 hundredths. That equals 95 hundredths, or 0.95. If I want to just use the multiplication way, I'm going to ignore my decimals in step 1 and just do 19 times 5. So 5 times 9 is 45. 5 times 1 is 5, plus 4 is 9. And now in step 2, I have 2 decimal places here. So when I have 95, I'm going to start at the back and count 1, 2 over and put my decimal in front. And I always want to put a 0 in the ones place for good practice if I don't have a number there. So we have another 2 examples, 56 hundredths times 4, and then 3 times 27 hundredths. So do whatever method you choose and come back and check your answer. With me, I'm going to use the multiplication method, but either way you should get the same answer. So pause now and come back when you've completed them. So you should have gotten 2.24 and 0.81.